Joining us now is Ojy Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Ojy.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Love your blue jacket. Today I'm complimenting you because you're not wearing black. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. And Tundu, you look excellent.
Oh, thank you, Ojy. So do you.
Great.
I like your pinstripes.
I'm wearing pants today for the first time.
Yes, that's so true. You don't wear trousers.
No, but I like this. Rufai, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Ojy. How are you doing? Trust
I'm doing
everything
great.
is well? Great.
Great. Well, good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the highlights of what's trending across the globe. First, in the United States, former President Donald Trump is out of office, but not out of the courts, as he faces probes from 5 independently elected investigators. Then, actress Angelina Jolie sells her painting of a 12th century mosque in Marrakesh by Winston Churchill for a record-setting $11.5 million, making it the most expensive of Churchill's paintings. Then, the Rolls-Royce all-electric airplane is ready for its spring takeoff. The single-passenger zero-emission aircraft, when launched, will be the world's fastest electric airplane. What a beauty. Then in entertainment, British-Nigerian actor Oti Fagbele is set to play Barack Obama in Showtime's anthology series, The First Lady. And finally, in Nigeria, activist Omoyele Sowore shows up in court with a man draped in cowries. When asked who the man was, here is what he had to say.
I'll ask you a question. If you look outside of here, can you see something that is red and white out there? Can you see it? Passport photo place. Would you call it a shrine? You're not aware.
It's not.
Yes. Every Nigerian can be represented in a court gallery, whether they are traditional priests, as you like to call them. And why would you call your own religion traditional when you call imported religions sophisticated or civilized? This is how we Africans undermine our own cultural beliefs and practices. So you see an African well-dressed in court expressing his religious rights and beliefs. You call him a herbalist. Is he wearing herbs on his head? Would you call somebody who's wearing a cassock a herbalist? Would you call somebody...
Well, he's saying this man, was he wearing herbs on his head? I know you couldn't hear him, but that was what Amoyele was saying. I mean, but this whole incident has sparked a huge debate on social media. I'll tell you what he tweeted as well. He wrote on Twitter, "Why was this white guy in Capitol riot never referred to as a herbalist, but the African guy beside me is constantly referred to as a herbalist?" Well, in response to his tweet there, Michael wrote, "The guy at Capitol riot is a real Satan, while the guy beside you is called using madness to cure madness." I mean, I don't know what this whole incident is all about, but I think he went there for moral support. I mean, it's not the first time we see people going into court with, people that they believe will give them moral support. And if that's the person who gives him moral support, it's allowed to do so. Tundu.
Well, I don't think the term herbalist in itself should be demonized.
Yes.
Herbalist could be positive, couldn't it? But I don't understand the false equivalence Omoyele Sowore is making between this gentleman who accompanied him and the insurrectionist at the Capitol building that was wearing a headdress and paint on his face. That is an insurrectionist in some kind of ridiculous attire as far as I'm concerned, but it makes sense to him to go looking like a hunter. So it's a false equivalent. The point I think he's trying to make is about the colonial, mentality that a lot of Africans, in fact, all Africans have to a certain degree. We've had this conversation before. People point the finger at those who bleach, but that mentality reflects in other ways the way we're very quick to condemn our traditional beliefs, our traditional habits, and what have you. And I would want to urge Omoyele Sowore to also don this type of attire himself and not wear the white man's blazer.
Oh, he's wearing a blazer.
Yes, so he doesn't need to wear, but he doesn't need to wear a blazer. Just chuck the whole thing and be totally Pan-African, why ever not. But the point I want to make that we have to be very careful. The man dressed in red and black did not describe himself as a he didn't describe himself as a native doctor or anything like that. We have to be careful because Nigerian law recognizes witchcraft as an offense. And he turned up in court. He could have been arrested, actually, because he's in Abuja. The penal code is what is operational in Abuja. Section 216. If you represent, all you need to do is represent yourself as a practitioner of witchcraft. It is a misdemeanor in Nigerian law. It's also a misdemeanor according to Section 210 of the Criminal Code. So we want to really be careful about this kind of showboating because you could get into trouble for it. As long as that remains the law of the land, whether you agree with that law or not is entirely different. The National Assembly can always, do some kind of amendment. But right now, that is the law in the Penal Code and the Criminal Code. It's a misdemeanor and there's a fine or a jail term of 2 years.
Okay.
So showing up to court in a manner where they can think that you're representing yourself as a practitioner of witchcraft can be quite dangerous territory. But he's wearing a traditional attire. I don't think that in itself is a really bad thing to do.
Right.
As long as you're decently dressed. If you go to court, it's a formal environment. You don't need to show up there like in a bathing suit or something. He's decently dressed. I don't. Now, so this is what was going on around social media, and people were tagging him either as a herbalist or the word babalawo. Now, babalawo is that's witchcraft. Yeah, that's a crime in Nigerian law
at this point. Dr. Abati.
Well, if you look at the gentleman who accompanied the Sowore, he's wearing Idoma colors. The Idomas of Benue State, they wear traditionally black and red. They will add a cap to it. I guess every cultural group in Nigeria have their own way of dressing. The Tiv in the same Benue State wear predominantly white and black. So the moment I saw him, I associated him with Idoma. Now, Sowore is saying that this is the kind of dress that he has chosen to wear, and that he's not a traditionalist. He should not be labeled, because to show solidarity, he has had to go to court with Christians and Muslims, and people did not complain. But if you look at the man's fashion sense, how he has, made it to turn out, this is not what the Idomas wear on a daily basis. It's unusual. There is some suggestion to it that the man is a herbalist. I mean, who goes about carrying the DBS sack? That red sack, that's the DBS sack. So you are likely to wonder what kind of fetish objects are inside it. Nobody goes around, whether you are Idoma or Tiv or Yoruba, with cowrie shells all over your cloth. That in itself is suggestive. And he has that small god, which he's carrying. And when he was in court, sitting behind the Sowore, he was shaking it. The thing was making some sound. And if you look at it also, it looks like there is a feather somewhere, and then there are snail shells. We don't know whether it's shell or it's live snail, because people go about sometimes, we hear, with tortoise. Some carry snakes in their pocket.
Oh dear.
So all of this, suggests that, well, maybe the man, there's something fetish about his appearance. So those who now went a step further to say, oh, this must be a herbalist, you cannot blame them. And there are other persons who, in fact, on social media, labeled him Senior Special Assistant Spiritual Matters. So Omoyele Sowore. But Sowore is saying that this is a case of Pan-Africanism. I don't think that many people are convinced, because some people are even joking that, well, this is no longer about the law. Sowore is using traditional means to fight the government. Well, it generated a lot of curiosity.
Yes.
It also, at the same time, provided a lot of amusement and entertainment. And I hope that Sowore will not go to the court the next time with somebody who may even dress in an attire that is more dramatic than this. But I think, the big takeaway is the sense of humor being expressed by Sowore and his traditional Africanists going to court with with the dubious sack and cowrie shells and snails.
Rufai. I forgot to say, I'm sorry, Rufai, he's not wearing a mask. He's wearing a whole lot of things, but he's not wearing a mask.
Maybe he doesn't need one since he's a babalao.
Oh, so that's the Holy Water Brigade. That because they're spiritually strong, they don't need a mask. All right.
Right.
There's even something on his chest that looks like the small head of a cat.
Yes.
I thought that was jewelry. Surely not. That's not a real.
No,
is that jewelry?
It looks like a little thing.
This may be interpreted as an attempt to intimidate the magistrate.
Oh dear.
Because if you are the type of magistrate who has a different set of belief, you are likely to feel that this is a form of intimidation.
Rufai, do you think this is a form of intimidation?
It's an OSHA. It's an OSHA.
Oh my goodness.
You know, the same allegation a lot of people are putting against somebody that he covered his own. This is what you are seeing in the open. And it's quite very funny. I mean, I don't think they're intimidating the magistrates in any way. I mean, I think this is just good comic relief for what we are facing right about now. And the case he's making about African traditional religion, I mean, nobody's putting the African traditional religion backwards in the sense that a lot of people still have a very strong footing on the African traditional religion, despite the fact that there are Christians and Muslims in this country. You know, we have a popular saying in Yoruba, even among, people, they say, because I'm a Christian doesn't mean I shouldn't go back to my African traditional religion. And, people still say things like that, and you still know it's still a big deal. So I just think, let's take this for the comic relief it was. At least this helped all of us remember that Showore is still in court, and he's been going to court for a while and all of that. And I think that's the conversation it has generated. Nobody's putting this backwards. Nigerians are still very, very strong on the African traditional religion, and forget whatever, how holy they show outside, or how, lean into a particular traditional Christianity or Islam they show outside. But they are still very intact with the traditional religion. So, I mean, let's take this for what it is. Face value comedy.
Good point, Rufai. We'll take another story. A bill prohibiting persons convicted of sexual offences from working with children has passed third reading in the Senate. The bill was passed after the chairman of the Committee on Women Affairs, Senator Betty Apiafi, presented a report for consideration by the House. The chairman said children stand a risk of being abused if found within close proximity of such convicts. Senate President Ahmad Lawal agreed that the bill was important and would help forestall societal ills such as rape and keep rapists away from children. I mean, I think this is a great move by the Senate, and we must congratulate Senator Betty. But I mean, I don't understand how come this is coming at this point, like now. It should have been something that had been put in place and in motion already. I mean, this is an amendment of the 2003 Child Rights Act bill, and hoping that, besides just passing this bill or making it a law, there should be more mechanism in place. I mean, the questions now are, what are the mechanisms in place to make sure this would work in terms of, is there any, comprehensive sex offenders register in Nigeria at this point? I don't know if you have time to comment. I think that we should go on a short break, and when we return, What's Trending on the Morning Show will continue. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show. We're still on What's Trending. Tundu, before we went on a break, we were talking about the bill that has passed third reading, preventing child sex offenders to work with children in Nigeria.
So you were saying that was an oversight of some
Yes.
sort, and I completely agree with that. That should have been in the original bill in 2003. But it's really shocking to know that Nigeria just launched its sex offenders registry in 2019. Lagos had launched theirs in 2014, which isn't great either. So they forgot to add that. Well, better late than never. Like you said, we should congratulate the Senator for her work and the Senate for passing this bill. It's important. But it has to be said that it must be enforced.
Correct.
Such that everybody should know that this is the law. Because it's easy to be convicted of an offense against children, and then you go and apply to work in a school and nobody checks. You, the convicted, you're not going to volunteer that information now, are you? And then you'll be hired, and the poor children are, prey to such a person. There's an argument, of course, about rehabilitation. Having been convicted and served your jail time, should you not be allowed to go into the society like a regular person? I think about that, but I reject my own argument that I raised because there's a compulsive nature to these sexual offenses, especially against children. Pedophiles cannot seem to help these urges. So to help society and to help themselves, they should not be allowed anywhere near children. They should not be allowed to adopt or foster children as well. That also needs to be there as it is in other countries. Because right now, it's only about working with children. Adoption is also very key.
That's a good point.
Yes, they should not be allowed anywhere near children, period.
Yeah, the best practice in other jurisdictions is that such persons, they are registered, they are also monitored, and, if there is any alarm or any kind of attempt to misbehave, there are also restrictions that are placed on them, in fact, for life. Now, when the Child Rights Act was passed in 2003, it was quite controversial in Nigeria because it puts the age of a child is defined as anybody that is below the age of 18. And in some parts of the country, this was a challenge. But in terms of its overall intent, it is to protect the child. And unfortunately, as we speak, only 24 states out of 36 have domesticated it as state law. So one of the major points of advocacy will be for us to continue to argue that those states that have stubbornly refused to adopt the Child Rights Act should do so. The day they have somebody who is progressive in charge of the state or the legislature in the state, these are issues that they should return to so that, the spirit of that particular law will be something that is accepted nationwide and not just in a part of the country. As for the sexual offenders not being allowed to work and sexual offenders register, yes, some states have the sexual offenders register. Take, for example, Ekiti State. On a regular basis, they publish that register and attach the photographs of the sexual offenders.
Right.
And they put it on social media.
Correct.
On Instagram, on Facebook, so that there's no way you can escape it.
That's what I was asking.
In Lagos State also, there is a sexual offenders register. And on a regular basis, these names are published. But perhaps there should be a central database whereby if you are an employer of labor or, you are just interested in the research or information, you want to check somebody out, there probably should be a database, maybe a national database, that people can go to and check persons, whether this particular person has a record with regard to not just even pedophilia, but maybe perhaps to other forms of crime. But you raised the point about rehabilitation, because the whole idea of justice is to correct. But it looks like there are certain persons that cannot be corrected,
sadly,
who have to be named and shamed and be monitored for life, so that the threat that they pose to society is not inadvertently encouraged.
Correct. Rufai, before I come to you, I'll take our final story. Nigerians on social media have reacted to a trending photo of a banner erected by the Presidential Task Force announcing the reception ceremony of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which arrived in Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport on Tuesday. Reports indicate the banner was erected hours before the aircraft conveying millions of doses of the vaccine arrived. Also, an invitation letter sent by the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency to dignitaries has also sparked a debate on the internet. Now, Rufai, what's your take on this? Should we be celebrating vaccine arrival? Should we have a red carpet?
They should go and take off the banner and return that money. That's nonsense. Nonsense in its entirety. Nonsense upon nonsense. They should take down the banner and return the money. Please, we need to think of how we can ensure a proper vaccine distribution mechanism in this country. The fact that we don't even have enough vaccines to start with, because this can't even vaccinate about 2% of our population. The fact that we don't have logistics to ensure that people that take the first vaccine are not taking the other one, then the next thing we put up a banner to welcome vaccine. What are we not going to put up a banner for in this country? Everything. Isn't it shameful that we don't even have, centers that can produce vaccines in this country? Labs. Then we are putting up a banner, reception ceremony for arrival of COVID-19 vaccine. They should take down that banner and save the money for something else. Isn't it shocking that India has to give us another extra 100,000 vaccines, just to be able to support us? If we are the giants of Africa, are we not supposed to be giving other African nations vaccines in this country? Then we are putting up banners in celebration. I don't support things like this. You see, we should look inward on how we can develop our country and make things better, not be celebrating. You are putting up a banner to celebrate a vaccine that they gave you, that Osho-free vaccine. People, they gave you vaccine for free. You are putting up a banner to celebrate the arrival of a free vaccine that you didn't buy with your own money. Who did this to us now?
Ngozi, who wrote, I can just imagine the vaccines picking up the mic like, thank you all for the warm reception. We have been told that Nigerians are hospitable. I mean, this is incredibly amazing. I mean, how did this happen?
No, we will have a banner for the opening of an envelope at this point. I completely agree with Rufai. It's shocking.
Yes. Dr. Bati.
Well, it's an overkill, but I guess where they are coming from is indicated by that letter. They wanted it to be a big event. Ambassadors were invited to that ceremony. When we were talking with Professor Nasidi, I raised the point that it was, there was an omission because we didn't see the involvement of the states. So their explanation is that, look, they wanted this as a way of letting everybody know. I know everybody has been talking about that banner, but I don't think it's a strategy. If the idea is to inform people, they have achieved that idea, that objective. But certainly, it's an overkill. I was surprised. I was looking around for Ashwebi. That was a missing element in it. But I just looked at the green jackets they were wearing. I said, okay, this looks like Ashwebi in a
No,
sense.
it's not that.
But the focus should be on the big issues. Having a very good rollout program, ensuring that there is fairness in the distribution, and taking a lesson from this about how, for future purposes, Nigeria should begin to invest heavily in research and development in every field so that we don't become a recipient of other people's philanthropy or charity. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abati. That's all I have for you guys.